Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Insights Now webinar. Today, we're going to be talking about gaining clarity through on-demand behavioral research. We're excited to have everybody together today, and we've got a wonderful guest speaker with us today. I'm Greg Stuckey. I'm the Chief Research Officer at Insights Now, and our guest is Loretta.
Hi, I'm Loretta Barisas, and I'm the Director of Sensory at Tyson Foods.
Excellent. All right, and as you go through today, if you haven't done a webinar with us before, there is a chat window, there is a question box. Go ahead and ask any questions. If you have any issues, we got folks looking at this all through the webinar. If you have questions, ask them here. At the end of the webinar today, we'll be doing a Q&A. So certainly ask your questions. We'll get to them all as we get wrapped up at the end. All right. Today, we are going to be jumping into really the whole idea of disruption and getting better clarity when life has become disrupted and industries have been disrupted. So I'm going to actually start today with a little bit of a poll. So I'm curious for everybody who's on, what type of on-demand tools you have been using. So hopefully you should all be seeing now a poll on your screen, and looking forward to hearing what everybody or seeing what everybody is saying. So curious what kind of on-demand tools you are using, how many people are using different types of services. I'm wondering, I'm super curious if on-demand grocery delivery is peaking up or not. Typical on grocery, prior to our big disruption here, that was sitting somewhere in the 30% range, and it looks like it's running in the 50%, 55% range now. All right, so for everybody seeing this, we've got, thank you for responses. We've got 86% in the video streaming, 90% in online banking, 40% ride services, 50% in grocery, and about 35% doing marketing, on-demand marketing research. So that is pretty good. So about a third of people listening in today have used on-demand. So certainly that'll be good. We're certainly going to talk about some on-demand. Loretta is going to share an experience that she had with on-demand as well today. So the question is, what are we doing with on-demand research, and why is that important today? Well, it's important because on-demand gets you to market faster, gets you answers very, very, very quickly. It helps save you time, money, and really focuses your research. That's in the research space. But on-demand as a platform, if you will, is in all aspects of our lives. And we're just barely bringing it into the research community. So the question is, well, why are we being so slow to adopt something that's a regular part of the rest of our life, especially when it's such a good tool for doing disrupted research, or in researching where industries are being disrupted and where categories are being disrupted. So one good example of that is plant-based. Plant-based foods, of course, are disrupting the market currently, and there's lots of different categories in which they're disrupting. This is some information from the Plant-Based Foods Association. You can see there's certain categories like plant-based yogurt for 2019. 31% of the increase in that category was due to plant-based. The dairy-based yogurts actually fell over the course of that year slightly. For animal meats, 18% came from the growth came from plant-based, 2% from other animal meats. And then if we just look at all food together, 11% of the growth is coming from something that's plant-based versus non-plant-based across all these categories. So you can see certainly a huge amount of disruption happening. And in these disrupted times, you've got to be quick to market. You've got to be able to move fast. So we really want to be able to take advantage of today's tools to get there, because innovating to disrupt requires greater clarity in insights, and it requires really rapid decision making. So if we look at on-demand as a strategic tool that we can incorporate into our research platforms, on-demand really offers three core value propositions for us. The first is it gets us faster insights. The second is that it helps save us money. It's more cost effective in general. And the third is that it helps us focus on behavioral insights. So on-demand tools help because you're not doing something really extensive. Your on-demand's really designed around quick and focused. It really focuses you and makes you think about what type of behavioral insights do you really need, what types of behavioral KPIs do you really need in order to make really good decisions. And we'll show you some examples of what we're doing in this space today as well. But first, on to faster. What does it really mean to be faster? Well, number one, on demand means anywhere, anytime, right? So as changes are happening, you can look at changes as well. So on demand gives you access to data that's already been gathered, access to insights that are already available to you. So you can look at, for instance, impact of ingredients, impact of benefits, claims, brands, awareness, impact of trial. All of these things get you information you need to make decisions quicker. Money is a big part of what we do in terms of needing the on-demand piece to help us manage our budgets better. Most on-demand tools today have in the background a community base. So at Insights Now, we've got clean label enthusiasts, we have category advocates as part of our community base. And that community base, these are pre-screened then individuals. So it's cost effective because you have ready access to a large number of people that you already know a lot about. So it allows you to, A, it does allow you to move faster, but B, it allows you to keep the cost down because you're doing less screening, as an example. You're spending less time doing that. So all those things help you do it down, bring that down. There's a lot of automated data processing that happens for transforming data into insights. So you've got a lot of machine learning algorithms, a lot of simple automations that go in place that not just speed you up, but save you quite a bit of money because now you don't have humans doing all that work. And then finally, there's a lot of cost sharing through all the technologies and apps. From a fundamental standpoint, right, these are not built uniquely. There's lots of pieces and parts that all come together. There's widgets that you can just plug in. So there's a lot of cost sharing that goes on through the apps themselves. And then again, from the user vantage point, same thing is happening. There's a lot of cost sharing throughout the network of on-demand tools that allow for reduced cost against those insights and against the research. Now, when it comes to behavioral insights, this is a piece that I think at Insights Now, we love to focus on the behavioral part of research. We are a company that's really well known for focusing on and making people that come to us with research ask, well, what behavior do you really want to see? Not what metric do you need at the end? Not what product should win, but really what behavior do you want consumers to have at the end? So what we focus on with on-demand is really asking that question. What kind of behavioral insights do you need to really make good, quick decisions in an on-demand world? Well, number one, you need to understand what cues and triggers drive behavior forward, right? So if you're doing research, you need to understand first and foremost, especially say in a product world where Loretta will be talking today, what are the cues and triggers of behavior? Secondly, looking at an implicit versus explicit relationships. So if you are looking at how do I impact behavior, one of the things you might want to do is nudge people's current behavior forward to make that happen more frequently, right? More valuable for your brand. That's an implicit drive. So you need to understand the implicit reactions to get that to happen versus the explicit. I want to disrupt people. I want to try and slow people down, make them think more acutely about their decision. That's an explicit relationship. And understanding the difference between whether the reaction from a person is implicit versus explicit really changes fundamentally how you make decisions and what types of decisions you will make when you look at your research. And finally, there's lots of behavioral indicators as well. And in different categories, different indicators are more and more valuable or better at predicting final behavior. But instead of just looking at some of the traditional measures like liking, like purchase intent when you're thinking about product research, looking at other types of behavioral metrics that will help you gauge whether you're going to nudge people, disrupt people, how frequently you can get people to move, whether you're going to drive habits forward, or whether you might accidentally off-ramp people. So understanding what kind of indicators exist out there as to whether you're going to drive repeat purchase or not, as an example, are all very, very valuable. And if we can focus our research in an on-demand world into those areas, then we'll be more successful. Right. As far as behavioral KPIs goes, this is specifically a performance indicator that tells you whether people are going to behave the way you think they are, right? So this is keying off different consumer perspectives. So if you're looking at category shoppers, lead adopters, if you're looking at influencers of the category, what are they saying? So if you have a group of people who are essentially on the forefront of a trend or a movement, focusing in and saying those people can help indicate whether the behavior of the whole society will move forward, in a large extent or not. And we saw that, for instance, with clean label enthusiasts, subset of people who were really into the clean label. Those people became influencers and had a major impact on the entire industry in terms of clean label foods, and that's happening still today. You can also look at measures of specific ingredient performance or claims or brands or positioning, and understanding if a specific claim essentially will disrupt a group of people or will nudge a group of people forward. And if you can identify the value of which claim does better at nudging, which does better at disrupting, you're going to be able to make better decisions in terms of predicting behavior. Right? So those things are all really important, and we really want to invest in databases of these information. So one of the things that On Demand gives us is not just the ability to do a piece of research or collect new information, but go look up information that's already been collected. So one of the things we're doing is bringing this information together into databases so that it's easy to look up. Oh, I wonder what non-GMO will do for this type of a product in this situation. Looking those numbers up is a much faster way of getting to market than having to go and do primary research to get there. Right. So overall, when you're innovating, when you're trying to disrupt people, you really want to gain clarity through on-demand behavioral research. You want to get faster insights. You want to save money. You want to get those behavioral insights focused. And at Insights Now, our on-demand tool is our behavioral app store. And we have three big areas of this app store. There's a knowledge center where all the published work that's available for anybody to download is there. We have the KPI center, that's the database where we do have that data on specific ingredients, on specific claims, and how those people react implicitly versus explicitly within when they're presented with that information. And then the behavioral testing center, which is the ability to do essentially assisted do-it-yourself style research where you can move really quickly to market. And that's the area that Loretta is going to be talking to us about in terms of her experiences and what she's experienced with the on-demand world. Right. So with that, now we're going to hear from Loretta and get her perspective.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Greg. Happy to be here to talk to everyone today. So a little bit about myself. I lead the sensory team at Tyson Foods. I've been part of the team in its legacy companies for the past 10 years. Actually, my 10-year anniversary is coming up in May, so pretty exciting for me. A little background for those of you that might not be familiar with the history there. I actually started out at Sara Lee. So if you think about baked goods, Jimmy Dean, breakfast sausage, ballpark hot dogs, and then the company evolved to Hillshire Brands. And finally, we were acquired by Tyson Foods a few years back, which brought chicken into my world. So a lot of product categories. Along with the evolution came a ton of opportunity to drive innovation across a variety of existing as well as newer categories. So think snacking, for example, or even plant-based proteins through our Raised and Rooted brand. So a little bit about Tyson. We think differently, we act boldly, and we lead the way in our industry across these categories. So as such, it's really important for us to have access to a variety of nimble tools that enable us to gain those faster and deeper insights in a cost-effective way. We found that some of these on-demand tools really help us to do that. So I'm going to give you an example. Recently, we had an opportunity to partner with Greg and his team to utilize one of these on-demand tools. So a little bit about the study. We had an interest in innovating in a new product space. The space was new to us, but existing in the marketplace. We had some key objectives that we really wanted to understand. We needed to understand consumer perception of the products during preparation and consumption. So this is something that certainly wouldn't make sense in essential location testing to get at prep. We wanted to identify opportunities across the different sensory attributes, including any pain points that were experienced during preparation. And then we also wanted to explore claims and attributes that best resonated in this category and how they delivered via implicit measurements. Since it was important that we gain insights quickly, we decided on trying one of Insight's now on-demand tools. And using their community panel, we conducted an in-home use test. Again, it was critically important to do the in-home use test to understand the preparation piece and any associated pain points that our consumers were having. We had them purchase 2 products in the store, and each respondent was asked to prepare the product as they normally would in a recipe, and they would do that for each of the products. We also took implicit measurements prior to the purchase and evaluation to understand the importance of those measurements, but also after preparation and consumption to see how those attributes delivered. So what went well? Well, one of the things that we got out of this that was huge for us were the faster insights. So if you take a look at this chart, you see that, and you think about a typical custom research in-home use test, you've got a couple of weeks to do the screening and the recruiting, then you have your in-home usage, and then you have a couple of weeks in order to get results on the back end. So the beauty of this method is that there's no screening. So this panel is pre-screened. We looked for category users and we were fine with that. So we could jump right into it. We could send the product in home and just hit the ground running. We also were able to use the same amount of time in home and then get immediate results through the on-demand reports on the back end. So again, saved over 4 weeks, which was critical for this particular research project. We also got those traditional high-level insights immediately. So this was another huge benefit for us. Here's a quick example of the output and just a portion of the output actually. And right away we could see just by glancing at the data minutes after the studies were completed that product A was trending higher in most cases. Even some of this high level insight allowed us to start moving in a direction, start informing our R&D partners on where we wanted to go as we thought about development. Another big benefit is that we obtained holistic insights as well. So it wasn't just, how much did you like the product and ask some attribute related questions, but we got insight all the way from purchase. So their perception of the packaging, the product in the packaging, the functionality, the graphics. We got an understanding of how did the product deliver, so what claims and attributes were important and if they delivered. Got a deep understanding of the preparation method, as I mentioned, including the pain points. And we also got some understanding of the visual and aroma aspects of the products throughout the experience. We knew that the products were very different visually and from an aroma perspective and wanted to understand what that meant to consumers. So even though it was a fast research project, we were able to gain some of those deeper insights that you like to see. So here's an example of how we used implicit scores. We used it for this particular question to understand if either product was a good option to incorporate into meals. As you can see, product A had a strong positive implicit connection, cueing it as a strong option for meals. So it's something that consumers felt good about using a meal. Product B, while still positively associated, was not nearly as strong a connection with some slow responses and hesitation. So why was this a better option for meals? The open ends really helped us tease out some of those pain points that were not captured in the quantitative section. So what we found time and time again for product B was that there were issues with the product sticking to the pan. So this is something that made them question whether or not it would be a good product to incorporate into meals and something that we could take into our development. Appearance was also important to us as the products were very different and we wanted to understand consumer reaction here. So even though, as I mentioned before, product A in general scored the best across most attributes and overall, it fell short on appearance before cooking. So what does that mean? You know, it's liked a lot less, a 5.4 versus a 6.2. Well, results and information showed that the color and the texture cues drove down those appearance scores for product A. So just a few of the quotes from consumers. Initially, the product looked more like a formed packed meat product. The color didn't look right, it looked gray, and it had a mushy appearance. So again, really getting into detail on some of those unfavorable texture and visual cues, or visual texture cues and the color cues. Product B, on the other hand, had a much better appearance and no visual texture issues. Finally, we found that aroma was a struggle for both products, although it was minimized to a degree in the recipe. So if you can see, aroma liking before cooking and after cooking scores were very low before cooking. They went up a little bit after cooking and kind of normalized a little bit between the two products. But the key insight here was that it had a very weird smell, off-putting smell for both products. And that was something that was a problem. Some folks couldn't get past it, and some folks still could tell some of that aroma that was unappealing after they added different spices. Others were able to cover it to a certain degree. So certainly something that we would need to take into account as we go into development for this type of product. So overall, we were really pleased with this on-demand tool. It was perfectly suited for our needs for this particular study. In general, I would say this type of methodology works best when you have a fast turnaround, so that was critically important to us to move quickly. When you have limited resources, when you're okay with a general recruit and screen, so we were okay with category users, for example, here. When you have a relatively short ballot, we had about 30 questions for each product. And when you need just a high-level truncated report. So this all worked for us perfectly. Of course, with any methodology, there are trade-offs. So I would suggest sticking with standard custom research if you have a complex recruit. So if you really needed to do a custom recruit for a particular study, if you have a really extensive ballot, I mean, sometimes we have studies where we need to ask, 40, 50, 60 questions. This wouldn't be the right approach for that. If you need a detailed report, and if you have a very, very large base size. So super excited about this on-demand tool and really look forward to using it more to drive innovation forward faster through Tyson Foods. Back over to you, Greg. Thanks.
Thanks, Loretta. Excellent. Yeah, I love how these on-demand tools, they're changing the way we think about maybe classifying the type of research that we're doing. How important is it to, follow our traditional approaches, and where do those really deep, custom research style programs, where are they really required, and where are we able to move faster to market, be more agile in our thinking process? And it certainly, as you get more access to more of these tools and more of this information, a lot of times it changes the type of information you need, the depth of information you need, how you think about the value of the behavioral information that you're getting, and what you need to do with it to make a difference in a category. So on-demand, overall, great clarity through when you use on-demand, when you're focusing on forcing yourself to focus on behavioral research. It gives you that greater focus on your strategy. It helps empower your decision-making, and it really helps fuel the disruption of specific categories and helps you understand how to really move fast, right? That's the key here in terms of on-demand, and one of its super powerful values is it allows you to move extremely quickly. When you're focused on a category that is moving fast, when you're focusing on a trend or a particular event that's occurring in the world, and you need to get information as quickly as you can, on-demand tools offer that opportunity. The other thing that they're really great about doing is that they're great about really streamlining your internal business processes as well. So on-demand offers the opportunities to not have to deal with a really lengthy red tape approach, because they are software-oriented opportunities for you as your business. So you get a lot of advantages through those on-demand worlds. All right, so today, now let's talk about the questions that we have. We've got quite a few starting to come in here, and I am gonna ask a few as they come up, and if you have more, go ahead, or if you have questions, go ahead and type them now into that question box or into the chat box. Let's see, first ones. Let's see, so are there other types of studies that can be run through on-demand tools? Certainly we're showing like a simple, straightforward home use study, and absolutely that's a great use of on-demand. Other types of studies that are really good, anything in the online qualitative space, basically anything, wide range of qualitative capabilities are great there. Anything that is really where you want to be in the moment is a fantastic use of on-demand spaces, and certainly survey-oriented research as well works very well in the on-demand space. Let's see, another question that we have. How do you work in the implicit questions? That's a great question as well. So Loretta, this is a question. So implicit questions, let me give a background quick. Implicit questions are very much a tool that you have, right? It's a question type. Insights Now has built a implicit question that's extremely fast to incorporate into research. So we're measuring a person's reactions to a stimulus. So you will present like a series of claim statements, and you'll just say yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, or agree, disagree, agree, disagree. And it's extremely fast, so you can whip through a whole lot of items very, very, very quickly. Attributes could be done that way, claims could be done that way, et cetera, so forth. And that will give you an understanding of whether a person has answered quickly in a positive way, quickly in a negative way, or slowly in a positive or negative way. So it breaks that information into those 4 quadrants, which then can be rolled up into an overall score, or you can look at portions of populations. But Loretta, you have used implicit questions now, not just as in this on-demand, but in other areas of work as well. So where do you find the value in implicit?
Yeah, I think it's valuable twofold. And the way we actually used it in the study, I didn't go over the results from the first part, but was number one, to understand the importance to consumers of these different attributes. So whether it be a claim or whether it be a product attribute. For example, I talked about it's a good option to incorporate into the meals. So when you ask yes or no prior to just describing the product to consumers, prior to them actually experiencing the product, you get an understanding of how important that is to them, right? And then after they tried each of the products, we ask that question again, would this product be a good option to incorporate into meals? And you get that reaction time, the yes, no. So again, it gives you that insight ahead of time of, just thinking conceptually about the product category, where they are, and then diving into the different products. Do they deliver? So connecting those two are very, very valuable.
Yeah, that's really true. And that's a good point. So when we talk about behavior, one of the things that before and after questions allow you to do is look at a person's hopes versus then how the product actually delivers on that, right? So in one of the great questions we have that's not implicit is just simply, how well does this meet your expectations? And we know that if you have a high percentage of people that say that it doesn't meet my expectations, that's a bad thing for your product. And you want to keep those numbers, percentage of the population where you're not meeting their expectations, very low. Implicit on the front and the back end like that allows you to see, okay, now that I've got this product in hand and I'm getting ready to use it, I've built up hope, right? Ooh, what is this going to be like? Especially if they've never used this product before, right? There's a lot of hope and a lot of expectation built up there. And then on the back end, now they've had it, had the full experience, getting that reaction. Now you know whether that product, that delta between the before and after, that's going to help you look at whether that product then is going to be something that person would repeat purchase or not as well, or use again. Okay. Other questions that we have. Another question, home use testing during this time of COVID. That's a good question as well. So yeah, in terms of what we're experiencing right now in terms of home use testing, it's it certainly can't do central location testing right now, but home use testing is great with on-demand tools because you can ship product without a problem right now. And having people go into the store and buy product is a little bit tricky, going to slow you down quite a bit right now. Certainly that won't be the case afterwards. So going into the store to buy, probably not the best thing to be doing if you're trying to move really fast right now, but certainly organizing product to be bought and shipped to people is something that is really easy and straightforward to do today. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree, Greg. And I think the only build that I would have is that when we think about product attributes and consumers' feelings toward them, I think you're going to get what you typically would get. One of the things that you might want to take with a grain of salt, depending on the phase of the COVID-19, are things like purchase interest and things like that, given the fact that people right now are super focused on, I need to get my staples and get out of the store. So I think if you take that into consideration, getting the product attributes and their experiences and things like that, I think are still just as valuable.
Right, right. And a further build on that was, are there any pickup of products versus shipping of products going on? And yeah, there's actually several different ways where we've been organizing that. So picking up products from a specific location is one way to go. Another way is that we, especially for like frozen and refrigerated products, working with courier services to have, certainly one of the things we have in our on-demand tool is if you're going to have a frozen or a refrigerated product, we will organize the shipping not through a traditional shipper, but through a local courier, so that they literally pick up the phone, call the person and say, hey, are you going to be home in the next 2 hours? We'd like to deliver this product to you. So it organizes the information that way. Very nice personal touch, good use of managing, or keeping that product safe throughout the whole process as well. Okay, let's see. How long does it take to set up a project? Good question. So the hardest part about setting up on-demand projects is getting your questionnaire done, quite honestly. So do you have product ready to go? And what questions do you want to ask? Those two things take the longest amount of time. Setting up, the on-demand tools today that we have available to us today are very quick and easy to use. They're simple, like they're filling out forms, uploading questionnaires, picking number of people you want, et cetera, so forth. Goes extremely fast, really easy interface. Certainly that's what we've tried to design on our end. And I know other tools that are for surveys and things like that, they follow that same basic simple wizard format. Okay, well, I don't see any other questions that we haven't already covered here. If you don't think I've answered your question completely, go ahead and certainly email me. My email address is on the screen. My phone number is on the screen as well. You're welcome to give me a ring, give me a call, and I'll answer you as quickly as I can and get back to you with any other further questions. All right. So next week, we have another webinar coming up. We're actually going to be focusing in on how clean living enthusiasts are changing their behaviors in response to the coronavirus. So we've been doing a lot of research with our clean living group who have very unique behaviors around clean labels, ingredients, et cetera, so forth, brands they buy and don't buy. And we've been monitoring and working with them on watching what they are buying and what they're not buying, things that are staying the same, which is pretty curious, and things that are changing. So if you're interested in seeing behaviors and how major disruptions like this are changing people's behaviors and what kind of behaviors are and aren't changing, next week's webinar will be a really good one for you to attend and or sign up so that you can grab the recording of that as well. So that's next a week from today, same time. All right. And with that, I think we're done for the day. I thank you all for joining in. Loretta, thank you very much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to be here. Be safe, everyone.
All right. Thank you and bye-bye.